Hey everyone, welcome to another video of me mastering a track. Today I've got a track by Creating Paradise. It's called Machinery of Lies, and this was submitted along with the rest of the tracks. And I picked it out because I like the vibe of it. It's got kind of 80s, almost Blade Runner feel to it, and it's got vocals in it. The mix is slightly out of balance, and I think I can bring it up to the next level with mastering. So I'm going to run through my process and talk you through why I'm doing what I'm doing, and we'll end up with a nice polished master at the end of it. So let's get going. So on my pre-master channel, I've got a few plugins on there, and then after those plugins we're going out of Reaper into the hardware rack, just a couple of EQs, a couple of compressors, then back into Reaper on this second channel where I can record and monitor what is going on. I've got a few more plugins on the printing channel, and all the plugins across both channels are wrapped by ABLM2, and that is a plugin that gives you the ability to A/B your master and pre-master at a volume matched level, so it doesn't fool you into, so you don't end up fooled into thinking something's better just because it's loud. So really essential tool for mastering. And I've got it set up to my MIDI controller here, so I can just punch in and out. Only slight downside of it is there is a slight delay between post and pre, which can throw your brain off a little bit. So it takes a bit getting used to doing that instant comparison when there's a little jump in there. You'll hear what I mean in a minute. So with any track I get in, I'm just going to play it through, have a listen, probably flick through the track, because I can kind of see the different sections, see the repeats, and I can flick through, see if anything dramatic changes, and then I'll start doing some processing. So on my master channel I always have VUMT, which is a VU meter from Klanghelm. I've got a couple of other plugins which are mapped to my MIDI controller, so I can monitor the sides and the mid, or the left and the right, or whatever I need. I've got an isolator which you can tune so you can solo different bands, and I've got the Ulean loudness meter if someone's after hitting those LUFS targets. Also got Equilibrium, which is my digital EQ, but on the master channel I don't use it as an EQ, I just use it as an analyzer, because it gives a great display of the mids, so that's the center of the image, the mono signal, and the sides, which is the difference, everything else, everything that's out of phase. So the white is the mid and the blue is the sides. So I've always got that running on my second monitor. So let's play the track, we can get into it. So that's enough for me to listen to the track and know roughly what shape the mix is in, and I've already got some ideas of where I'm going to go, and a couple of things I want to attack first, which are on the pre-master channel before it goes out into the hardware. I've got a multi-band dynamics expander, which is great if you need it. This track doesn't need it. Multiplicity, which is like a Swiss Army knife of mastering tools. It's a dynamic, multi-band dynamic expander or compressor. Then I've got Soothe, which is what I'm going to use here for the sibilance on the vocal, and there's also a synth, I think it's a vocoder, or a vocoded vocal, which is pushing a bit too much up in the top end. So I'm just going to have a tweak with that. So I can see it's doing what I want it to do. Then I'm just going to activate it essentially. 100% wet. And with Soothe, you've got two buttons here. One is Delta, one is Bypass, and Bypass is obvious. Delta gives you the output of what you are removing from the signal. It doesn't sound great. I don't know if it's because it's not oversampled for high resolution, but it doesn't sound great when you hit Delta, but that's what it's removing from the signal. So we should hear those S's and those T's coming from the vocal. And also the top of that vocoded synth I was talking about. So that's pretty much where I want Soothe to be addressing those issues. I feel it is a bit harsh as well, this mix. So a plugin I use for harshness is Brainworks Refinement, and that just dips down around the 3.5, 4K area. But it does something different to an EQ, not quite sure what it is, but it's one of those little magic boxes. We can do the same thing as Soothe here and just listen to what you're removing from the signal. And I can just exaggerate that so you can hear where it's taking away. I'm happy with that. I just have to put ABLM back on. We can have a little A/B test. So when it says pre, that is with everything turned off. When it says post, that's after everything's turned on. So I'm happy that Soothe is taking out those, it's de-essing where I want it to be, de-essing, and the BX Refinement is just taking out a bit of that harshness. So I've kind of controlled a few things there. So then I'm going to push out into the hardware EQ and the compressors. So I'll do that as the track plays. I've got a rough idea of what I want to do. So I will do it, and let's see if it works. Okay, so on the solid state EQ, I wanted to bring out some of the bass and also some of the low mids, if you like. So I've done a shelf at 240 hertz with a wide Q, and I'm boosting about 2 decibels. I just want to bring out that low end and some warmth in the low mids. Then up here I am taking away about 2.5 dB at 4K, which is that sort of harsh area. and it's a bit more broad than what I did in BX Refinement. So we've got the Q set really wide. I can just A/B that by turning the EQ on and off. So if we just have a listen again. Yes, I think that's nailed the right areas. I don't want to do anything with the valve EQ, but it's running through it anyway, which does give it a little extra weight. Then I'm going into the VCA compressor, which is just shaving off a few peaks, and then I'm going into the Varimu compressor with a nice slow attack, and that is just giving the an overall tone rather than slamming any kind of compression or attacking transients. I'm just using it as a tone box, really. So I'm fairly happy with how it's going. What I want to do now is I sometimes have bass lane on the pre-master, but here I'm having it on the channel that's going to be printed because I'm not 100% sure that it's going to do what I want it to do. So this way I can have it on the printed master and fiddle around with it, whereas if I'd put it on the pre-master and recorded it, that would be, I've put myself in a corner there. I can't undo that. I'd have to reprint it, which is a waste of time. So I've got it here, and I just feel like it needs another little boost in the very low frequencies just to get the weight of that kick coming through. So let's put that on. I've got it's at 20% wet, the boost, and the subfilter is set to 40 Hertz, so that's cutting off all the super low lows and just giving a little boost around 40. Then the other plugins I've got on the master is Equilibrium if I want to do any final tone shaping, Oxford Inflator, which just gives a nice boost basically, Standard Clip, which takes off any little bits that might be coming through, and Limitless just to push the overall level up. So what I'm going to do now is print that mix, and then we'll move on to the next stage where I will do the final limiting and polishing. So to record, I've got to turn off ABLM, and off we go. I'll see you on the other side. Right, so that's printed. It's back into Reaper. I turn record off. I'm going to take the plugins off the pre-master, and then if you look at them overall, you can see it's brought down the level of these sections here. So I'm maybe a little bit concerned that it's taken out some of the dynamics of the whole track, but I'm just going to let my ears make that decision. So I'm just going to run it through a bit and have a listen. Also, what I tend to do at this stage is push the level a bit, might give it a bit of inflator and a bit of clipping. Heading towards empty streets, running off the promises, burning fires where we meet without knowing what it is. Vacuous faces all around. And then what I can do is still do an A/B test by soloing the pre-master, soloing between the master and the pre-master. Listen to the vicious sound of machinery of lies. So the pre-master is still louder than the master at this point, so if I just give it a bit more level so it's more of a fair comparison. But already I know that I've made the right decisions because the harshness has gone, the sibilance is controlled, and it's got that warmth from the low end and the low mids. It's actually quite a big difference, and I'm glad I put the bass lane on this channel because now I'm not 100% sure it needs it. I'm just going to bypass that. Have a listen. I think it's probably got enough weight in the low end, so I'm going to leave that as it is. So all that remains is to push the limiter up and tweak with the limiter settings if I need to. I have a general starting point with the limiter, and if it's not being invisible, then I will use some of the settings to make it invisible. I mean, limitless is about as clean as it gets, but still every limiter is doing quite a heavy job if you're pushing it. So I just don't want it to get involved more than it needs to be, really. Also, it's not a dance floor aimed track, so it's not in a loudness war, this track. It doesn't need to be competitive in a DJ set. At least that's my assumption at this point. I could be wrong, and that's fine. And so I will push the track to the level that I think it should be at, and also to the level that the mix can handle. And once I've sent the track, if they want it louder, that's fine. They can come back and ask for it louder. But I'm going to go with my instinct. Now I've got it up to that level, I might be changing my mind about the bass again, so I'm just going to A/B it. I think it's somewhere in between, so it's only a tiny little boost, 10%, and the limiter, I'm quite happy with that. All that remains now is to export the master, and I will listen through it outside of Reaper so I get a fresh perspective. And if there's any tweaks, I'll go back and make them and re-export, do the same check again. After that, I'll send it out to the artist, and I'll simply say, here's your master, let me know how you get on with it, and leave it at that. I don't want to get into any details about what I've done or what I thought was wrong with the mix, or if I thought the mix was brilliant. I just want to send it out and wait for their feedback, and if there's any changes they want, then we work from there together. And I'm happy to make changes, like it's no problem. And that concludes the video. So I hope you've enjoyed this one. I hope you like the track as much as I did. I'll leave a link to the artist in the description. Any questions, leave them in the comments below. Peace.